Dragon tries to finish it up. Shadow Dragon takes aim. 16th to go. It's Rocket Can responding on the outside in Shadow Dragon. They come to the finish. It's Bill Mott. It's Junior Alvarado again. It's Rocket Can to win the Holy Bull by a length in the end.
That was a call from Pete Aiello from Saturday's Holy Bull, where Rocket Can stamped himself as one of the favorites down in Florida on the road to the Kentucky Derby. This, of course, is inside the Kentucky Derby. We, of course, couldn't be doing this podcast, Aaron Rodgers and myself, Kevin Kirstein, without our friends over at Woodford Reserve. Woodford Reserve has over 200 flavor notes in every sip, which makes it a spectacle for the senses. Please enjoy responsibly. Darren, I think a couple of questions were answered down in Florida this weekend. Good tab on Rocket Can last week on Thursday, and hope you had a flush Twin Spires account after that one.
I do, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
that was a very nice performance. I was really impressed with Tapit Trice on the undercard, and the race out in California came back fast. So, the Holy Bull Rocket Can I thought was outstanding. Breaking from post 8, which down at Gulfstream Park, going into that first turn, it is not desirable. He was 4 wide into the turn, raced 3 wide throughout, and he just kept going. He's got a little fight in him, and I was surprised he went off as the 3-1 third choice.
Yeah,
that's when the rubber band came off.
Yeah, right.
At that point, it was a nice, very nice victory. Going a mile and a 16th, and this horse, considering how wide he went, I would have to think the, sheets such as, the Ragozin or the Thorograph numbers are going to come back very good, much better than other speed figures just because of how wide he went. But I would expect him to show up in a race like the Fountain of Youth, continue on in the series down there, but a very nice victory under Junior Alvarado for trainer Bill Mott. And he went off at he ended up going off as the 5-2 second choice. But I know when I put my bet in, I don't think I moved.
Did you move the odds?
Nah, I'm not one of those computer automated wagering systems that was able to knock it down that much, but was happy to take the 720 on the win end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 2 big storylines are coming out of the Holy Bull. One was the poor effort from the favorite Cyclone Mischief, who just didn't really run a step. And then the comparison, I guess, on the day of, both earlier in the card of Tapit Trice, we'll talk about in a minute, plus the race in California, where it was much faster than this race. And so, again, depending on what, speed figures you're looking at or whatnot, it's, didn't come back to be the fastest of races. And so that'll be another key player moving forward. I thought Rocket Can, his best style of running probably suited him to be that wide. I feel like, he's got that Tapit on the bottom side. He's into Mischief out of a Tapit mare. So, we've talked about how Tapits can be quirky. So I think that was his best doing of Junior Alvarado, keeping him to the outside. Whether, it'll be tough in a race like the Derby, to get 3/16 of a mile more in the Derby. But, he seems to have that running style where he would run better outside of horses than inside.
Yeah, keeping them in the clear on the outside is always ideal. You're able to have clear running. You don't get dirt kicked in your face. You're not having to worry about traffic troubles. I mean, look, he had a perfect position despite being 3 wide down the backstretch. I'm with you. What is behind this group? Shadow Dragon coming off of poor effort in the Sleepy Hollow at off a long layoff, mind you. The winner, Arctic Arrogance, is a key player, probably the number 1 player up in the Northeast right now. West Coast Cowboy, Legacy Isle, Il Miracolo. I mean, I'm just not convinced what this group is going to produce. Cyclone Mischief, man. One of the reasons why I liked Rocket Can was you knew Cyclone Mischief was going to be heavily bet. and he had a monster performance in the race before, and he was coming back in about 4 weeks' time. That much of a jump forward sometimes signals the old adage, the bounce. Was it a bounce? Tyler Gaffalione, I read afterwards, said he was just empty, was making noise. Do they go back to square one with this horse? I don't know what happened, but he did not show up at all.
Yeah, it was interesting listening to Dale Romans talk prior to the race, and he talked about this horse being sort of the old school mentality horse where he does everything that he wants him to do while training. So that's why he wasn't necessarily worried about him on short rest. And he wasn't necessarily worried about him on short rest moving forward out of this race. He talked about, could run in the Fountain of Youth plus the Florida Derby plus the Kentucky Derby. So we'll have to see what they come back on the drawing board with him. But yeah, you're right. He was, it was no good no matter how we made it sound. What was really good was 4 races prior to the Holy Bull, and Tapit Trice, who stormed clear to an 8-length allowance victory for trainer Todd Pletcher, and showed that maiden win at Aqueduct was no joke. Who he dug in and beat Slip Mahoney, who Slip Mahoney came back and ran a very fast figure to break his maiden after that. He showed he's the real deal for the Todd Pletcher camp and definitely the favorite in the Fountain of Youth moving forward.
Well, hats off to you. You said the race goes through Tapit Trice. I thought Classic Car Wash, who was going to add a little pace pressure in there. He scratched out of the race. Looks like he's going to show up at Tampa Bay. I thought Shesterkin might be the better of the two, thinking that Tapit Trice would take all the money. It was actually Shesterkin that ended up going off as the 4-5 favorite. And Tapit Trice did exactly what he did in his race prior. He walked out of the starting gate. Now, we all talked about in the last podcast what a beautiful stride Tapit Trice has. And he has that, and he showed it again. He walked out of the starting gate. I mean, walked.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You want to show some forward, the ability to get out of the gate in American dirt racing. And he just walked out of there, but he walked out. He was able to get in the clear on the outside, and we just saw him engulf this field. I mean, what a beautiful looking stride. He was the wow horse of the day last Saturday for me. You knew he was nice, but to overcome 2 poor breaks and to win convincingly, just imagine what this horse might do when Todd Pletcher figures out how to get this horse out of the gate.
Yeah, and it's not like he's not working him from the gate. I've seen videos of the horse work from the gate. He's probably schooling at the gate, and Todd schools his horses there very often. So it's he's probably taking after his old father and doing things his own way and when he wants to do it. And that's the interesting thing that I've tried to look at, progeny of Tapit, letting them do what they want to do. So say this horse now, breaks well out of the gate. Is he sort of lost focus because he's so used to just walking out of the gate and performing so well? But again,
man, that stride, I think it's hard to. I mean, you remember when, I think back to American Pharoah in 2015, where his stride was like 1.5 lengths to every other horse's 1. And, I'm not trying to compare him to American Pharoah or anything like that, but talking about the length of that stride. I mean, when you watch the videotape of his 2 prior starts, and mind you, they're both 1-turn races.
Yeah.
1-turn races. I think this horse is only going to get better as the distances get longer. And he's just got a beautiful way of going with a tremendous reach.
So you're saying he was worth the 1.3 million?
You know what? I can see what they saw.
Yeah, yes, right.
I can see. Why they bought 1.3 million. Yeah,
you need to be a bloodstock agent.
Well, I was the underbidder then.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Me too. And then, talking about 1-turn races in the car, General Jim, who won the Swale Stakes going 7/8 here and just solid speed figure for his 1-length victory over Super Chow, the tiring Super Chow on the lead, making his comeback start in there. I thought that was a pretty solid effort for Shug McGahee. And, he's still a little bit of question marks. Will the horse handle the 2-turn stretch out? But I thought he did what he needed to do to win the Swale and probably give his trainer another shot of trying 2 turns on dirt in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think they might give it another shot. I mean, Donald Adam of Cortland Farm, he likes to, get involved, in the road to the Derby. The horse, was performed well on turf. They're clearly trying dirt. The backup in distance was a nice confidence builder. Maybe we see him show up again in the Fountain of Youth.
Yeah, definitely an option there. And let's move up to the West Coast, where
wow,
it was an interesting rendition out there of the 4-horse Bob Lewis, where Newgate ended up battling, maybe. It came back a fast race. It was tough to dissect on all ends of this race. Arabian Lion set the pace, ended up fading to 4th in there, but
we learned some stuff.
Yeah,
we learned. Well, here's what did you learn?
I'll tell you what I learned, and then you first.
Well, first of all, the pace was slow by California standards. When you're going 23-4, 47-3, that's a slow pace. Arabian Lion is not right. For whatever reason, mentally or whatever, they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. I would fully expect this horse is now off the trail, knowing the past performances of the barn. Worcester, needs to go back to the maidens, break that maiden, get the confidence builder. Newgate was dynamite under Frankie Dettori, and by reading, several comments and listening to some interviews, it sounds as if they've let Frankie, change this horse from being a prominent and forwardly positioned colt to more relaxed, one run off the pace, and the horses responded. It was a game victory, a nice neck victory, but I have to ask myself, I know it came back fast, but man, hard to figure running second is really hard to figure.
Yeah.
At 12-1 in this field, when you look at his past performance line, I just didn't see the jump up effort that hard to figure put forth. I mean, he really sprung forward. He's a hard spun colt. A Mr. Greeley mare on the bottom suggests one turn to me. So I don't know what the quality of this group of 4. I guess where I'm going with this, there are much better horses in that barn that were not in this race.
And I think that's the biggest factor that I learned out of this race. And so visually watching it, it was just 4 horses, so you're not going to see this sort of scenario shape up anywhere outside of California right now on the road to the Kentucky Derby. And so you try and think of, what would this horse do against 19 other rivals in the Kentucky Derby, or even, a fuller field with a faster pace. And, thinking that the pace, or thinking, maybe this isn't going to come back as fast as I think. And then it's showing up being a fast race.
I was surprised when it came back fast.
I learned that I think the horses right now, and we see this year in and year out, it's nothing new. The horses in California right now, speed figure wise, are much, much faster than what we're dealing with in the Midwest and in Florida, on the road to the Kentucky Derby Stakes races.
Mm-hmm.
They're just faster out there right now. That's not to say the horses in the Midwest and Florida and maybe New York can catch up to those horses. That's what we see year in and year out. But right now, those horses are faster in California.
I would say the path of the Bob Hope to the Sham to the Robert Lewis is not the typical path of the big boys out in the West Coast. It's just not. Now, can't penalize this horse for taking that path. He's improved. He's gotten better. We said that going into the last podcast. This is a horse that's improving. And that was another step forward. Is he my Derby horse or no, not today.
Yeah.
Not today, but it's not to say this horse can't continue to progress and continue to get better.
Frankie Dettori said we had a good pace in the race. We came back in a good time. Today we moved sharper and we beat some good horses. He was a little slow with his lead changes, but he ran well. So that's what Frankie had to say about that. He was looking to get himself Derby victory before he retires at the end of this year. The most notable retirement, I think, in thoroughbred racing history. It's like the year of Frankie, it seems like. Everywhere he goes, it's Frankie retiring. Hey, Frankie, you're retiring this year. And so it'd be cool to see a flying dismount in the Kentucky Derby.
I'd love for him to get a mount. I mean, I'm a big Frankie Dettori fan. The last time we saw him here at Churchill Downs, I believe, was the flying dismount aboard Enable after riding down the crown of the course in the Breeders' Cup turf. That was a great moment, a great mare that we got to see compete. One of the best I think we've seen in a number of years. Frankie Dettori, what a career he's had. He's always been fun to watch. Remember the Magnificent Seven?
Mm-hmm.
That might be 30 years ago now. It had to be early to mid 90s when he swept the seven.
I could have still been in diapers.
You might have been in diapers, but anyway, Frankie Dettori's a tremendous rider, taking that victory lap of the swan song of his career, wintering out west, looking for a Derby horse. And I'd love to see him on one.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. He went to Florida. I saw him with his agent, Ron Anderson, some photos down in Florida with Frankie. And so it'd be cool to see, you never know, leading up to the Kentucky Derby, what could happen. What else we got, Darren? We got, a trio of races this weekend that we'll preview on Thursday. I don't think that we're going to see at this time the Kentucky Derby winner in either of those races. Just looking at some of the probables, the Sam Davis, the Withers that was rescheduled from last Saturday, and the El Camino Real Derby. But it's a talking point nonetheless. It's an important step for both New York and Florida down at Tampa to lead into the championship series on the road to the Kentucky Derby.
That's my takeaway. This is the wind down of the wind down of what we call the prep season, the foundation building races that give you a glimpse. And once we get to that championship series, which begins with the Risen Star a week from Saturday on February the 18th, that's when this 3-year-old picture comes into much sharper focus. Right now, you're establishing your position on the trail. You're establishing position of how good you are to go a mile, say maybe a mile and a 16th. But that extra 16th of a mile going a mile and 1/8, and let alone 3/16 of a mile going a mile and 1/4, that's what really starts to separate folks. So, yeah, these are going to be some leaderboard building type of races, I think, coming up this weekend. I'm looking forward to it, but are there any wow horses that knock my socks off? No, I don't think so. Not this weekend. Not this coming weekend.
No, next weekend maybe. Here are the early probables for the Risen Star while we're at it. Curly Jack, who won the Iroquois determinately, who won the that nice allowance race down there, was third in the Gunrunner. Jungfrau for Bill Mott. Single Ruler, who broke his maiden down there for Keith DeSormo. Sun Thunder for Kenny McPeak. Tappett's Conquest for Brad Cox. You may have one other on there. 2 fills. And it sounds like Banishing, who has been well touted, is likely to go in an allowance race on the Risen Star program. And Steve Asmussen will probably have 1 or 2 on there as well.
We'll learn a lot more because that race is a mile and 1/8. It's the first time we're going to see horses outside of the Remsen early in the 2-year-old season. See these horses go 9 furlongs, and we'll learn a lot. Yeah, the leaderboard, Forte remains atop with 40 points. Instant Coffee second with 32. Rocket Can moves into third with 20. Curly Jack fourth with 17. Blazing Sevens at 16. And that's your top 5. So, again, the prep season basically establishes the leaderboard. Now it's all going to change. The points get larger. The distances get longer. The competition gets stiffer. And we'll start to round out the field and start comprising those positions for the Kentucky Derby, which is now 12 and a half weeks away.
Time is a tick, and it feels like Derby season here beneath the Twin Spires for those listening. It's time.
We also have the Derby Future Wager coming out this week. We'll also be releasing the early Triple Crown nominations. That's coming soon. And I know they're still looking over some paperwork and stuff like that, finishing that up. So we should be releasing that anytime now, just for all the horses that are officially nominated. Great time.
Good times here at Churchill Downs, and we'll talk again on Thursday, preview all the action for the weekend. And until then, keep your Woodford Reserve glasses filled and your Twin Spires account even fuller.
Oh, and don't forget, if you'd like to review, and if you like this podcast, be sure to subscribe on your platform, put in a review, put in a 5-star review for our 4-star performance. We appreciate your efforts.
It's a great line on that. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Thanks for listening to Inside the Kentucky Derby.